I recently found footage from several experiments involving recrystallizing caffeine, and this one's from November 2020. About 12 grams of caffeine were dissolved into 500 milliliters of cold tap water with heating. The caffeine was sold as anhydrous caffeine, but it was years old at this point, so I'm not sure if it still was. The caffeine was funneled into the bottle with a rolled up piece of paper, followed by the water, which was poured in with a measuring cup. Quick safety note here, the bottle was left uncapped, and it absolutely should be, since I'm heating it up and you don't want to heat a liquid in a sealed container and make a bomb. The caffeine really clumped together when the water first hit it, but swirling and heating helped break it up nicely. These are the notes I took, and if anybody else can read them, well, props to you. As more caffeine dissolves, the solution gains a slight turbidity because of a suspension of small pieces of caffeine as well as insolubles. As would be expected, dissolution slows down over time as more caffeine dissolves, even with heating and frequent swirling. Neither filtering step was filmed, but the product was hot filtered to remove any insolubles like small dark specks which remained in the solution before cooling down to recrystallize. This is the now empty bottle after pouring out the caffeine solution. Some of it dripped down the side and then evaporated, crystallizing caffeine on the outside wall of the bottle. A good amount crystallized and sort of caked into the screw thread at the top of the bottle. This is the filtrate from filtering through a coffee filter held onto the top of this jar by a rubber band. The hot plate is off but still hot, allowing it to cool slowly. After it cooled farther, it was removed, allowing it to cool to room temperature, and then put into the fridge, cooling it even more, giving this crop of crystals. Unlike many of my other caffeine recrystallizations, which completely froze out due to the overlapping needle-like crystals, this caffeine is much looser. Clusters of crystals did begin to grow and overlap each other, but little enough that they could still be dislodged. To me, they look like hybrids of snowflakes and cotton balls. The cold filtration, also not filmed, was performed by vacuum. I used a glass thermometer as a stirring rod to dislodge and slurry up the caffeine before pouring it onto the filter paper in the filter. After the solution had filtered through, I pressed down a second filter paper on top of the caffeine to keep dust out while it dried on the pump for the next several hours. This is the caffeine after air drying on the pump for several hours. The appearance of dimples is from pressing on the top filter paper with the tip of the thermometer, in an attempt to seal it to the layer of caffeine better, as well as to push water clinging to the caffeine through the bottom filter paper. The caffeine is still somewhat wet. A day or two later, once the caffeine had fully dried, it was weighed to be 5.89 grams, a 49% yield. Although this is probably slightly inaccurate, as I believe I just weighed the weight of one round filter paper to be 1.16 grams, and then doubled that for the weight of two round filter papers. Also, I made a note that some of the product was consumed before weighing, therefore decreasing the apparent yield. Yeah, it would make it a little low, so the yield was slightly higher, but I don't believe by much. I just love the way these mats of crystals shine, the way they glisten in the light. That's beautiful. It acts like some sort of construction paper or homemade paper when you rip it apart. As you see fibers, the caffeine crystals start to pull apart from each other.